anything within me that I can give.
And I still remain with something.
And still remain with something. Because you see, that occurred to me when I was reflecting, when I was still teaching at university, was, look, we are talking about preparing people for the world of work. How many of us have been to that world of work?
Very important question.
Yeah. So how do I prepare you for a world that I don't understand?
And I've not been to.
And I've not been to.
Yeah.
How do I prepare you to become a good software engineer if I've never worked on a software engineering project for a client?
Wow.
I know that making sense.
A lot of sense.
Yeah. So and I remember one of the things I proposed to the university then is that we should have an internship program for all lecturers.
Oh, I would be able to host some of them here. That would be very nice.
And take them out, because you see, the way universities, our education system is structured, it is structured on academic ability. So you're retained as a university lecturer because you got a first class.
The review of the summit is happening. You know, it's only on Creative Industry Talk, and people have been writing to me from all over Benin, name it, Nigeria. I've interacted with people in Nigeria, and everyone is saying, well, I'm in the conversation, okay, we wish we could have the same, all the people who went 3,000 people can actually be able to give their feedback. But there was also a feeling that, you know, France should have paid all the bills, that some people were given the air ticket and have to take care of themselves when they were there. So there was assumption that everyone who was invited could have had a certain amount of money. But Africa has a number of challenges. I could be a very good business person, but if you give me the treat like that, I think is everything. So some people came with a different feeling altogether. What was the feeling like from the Ugandan camp? Uganda took the biggest number.
I think, I don't know, I think there were more other countries that really took a big number. But I wouldn't say, I wasn't really camping with them. And actually, I met a few of them. I just bumped into some and be like, hey, you're here. What are you doing? I knew some who were there, like Daudi and others. So, but again, I think going back to this whole issue of who paid the bill and what, I think sometimes people miss the point. And also sometimes we tend to think that when you're invited, someone has to take care of you. I think, yes, they paid for my ticket and my hotel, but they didn't feed me, and I didn't complain. But I felt like my feeding myself was valid because I had a very relevant reason why I was there. I wasn't there just to be part of the conversation. I was giving a presentation, I was meeting with ministers, I was meeting with the stakeholders, and I was there for a purpose. So I'm not going to look at why did France pay all the food and everything that, you know, they already did me a favor to invite me, because it was also a very long process to get invited to this event. Yes, it was a very difficult process. First of all, you had to be fully vaccinated. If you're not fully vaccinated, then you could go a week before and be quarantined for 7 days. Then if you test negative, you can have access to this space. So there was a long process. And that whole process cost the French government a lot of money, you know. And when we were returning, we all got our COVID vaccinations for free. So we didn't have, so these are the things that we also have to look at. I think we have to look at the reasons why we were there. I was not there to take selfies. I was not there to just be part of the gathering. I was there for a reason, and I felt like I needed to achieve some of the things that I need to achieve, because I'm just there and the conference is for one day. I need to take advantage of my time and the people who are there to get something out of it. So I managed to build onto my contact list. I managed to meet important people that I think I'm going to engage with in the future, and I'm looking forward to working with the Institut Français, with the Ministry of Commerce, the French Development Agency, because I realize that when you have a conversation, even if their policies and agendas are not in line with what you're doing, they can start thinking around, okay, what is the added value here? And if you can make a good case, then they would slowly start coming into the case. And I think the steps are already there. So I'm totally not into why I wasn't given money for food, but everything else was taken care of, and I totally got value for the time I spent there. Welcome to This Week. Our speaker is Rim Kasim from Alexandria, Egypt.
Our observations so far after hosting nearly 25 events during the past 9 months are that we've seen that audiences, they have the tendency to pay for the online content.
What motivates me doing what I do every day is to bring back the original sound, the sound of Africa, the sound of Rwanda, and keeping alive African music.
People at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They've moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's Bookface. Why are you on Bookface? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying, I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
And I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and in the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Remember Prince?
Yes.
Prince.
An army of sheep led by a lion will beat an army of lions led by a sheep. That's a fake. Yeah. So let's be very honest about this thing and really understand that you need to understand where you lie and where you fall. So it's very important for us to understand that leadership has to be definitive. You can't be laissez-faire. It has to be definitive. You have to be strong, just like a lion. You know, when a lion meets an elephant or a buffalo or whatever, the buffalo and all these animals run away, and yet, by the way, they are stronger than the lion, they are heavier than the lion, they are more intelligent than the lion, they are taller than the lion. They run away. The lion, because of its attitude, it sees lunch. That is a leader.
Mr. Tony Trump, thank you very much for coming to the CEO bench. And I want to ask you, so if you were elected the President of the Republic of Uganda today, what would be your first State of Nation address now, as you look into the camera and close the show?
I think my first State of the Nation address would first of all to I think I'll just close it down.
Welcome to the CEO Bench. My name is Eddie Okila, and this is House of Talent Television, where we get to discuss serious stuff on the bench. Coming up on the bench this morning or this afternoon or this evening, depending on which part of the world you're actually watching the program from, is the man who has been on the scene of leadership and technology and IT and development and software development. He doesn't quite look like a software developer, and he's been able to bridge the gap between the two. We all know traditionally that the software writer or developer are usually guys who likes to be behind the scene. You don't see them. They like eating very well and putting on weight. But Michael is very different. So my guest this morning or this afternoon, this evening, depending on which part of the world you're actually watching the program from, is Michael Niyitegeka. The name I struggled with very much until I had to go and study the real meaning behind it. But we're going to ask him to share much of that. Michael is the program director at Refactory at Clarke International University, based out of East Africa in Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, and to be precise, in the suburb of the capital city of Uganda. And he's also the general manager or the country manager for ICDL Africa. Michael, welcome to the program.
Pleasure, Eddie. Thank you for that splendid introduction.
Yes. It's usually difficult to understand people who have the IT background, but you have an IT background, and interestingly, you have a very strong background in leadership. And to fuse the two are usually not an easy part. And I guess it's the reason why many people nominated you. We've received 55 nominations until yesterday.
Wow.
And 30 of them are coming, 25 of them are coming from Uganda. And I think 32 or so is coming from, 20 of them are coming from Uganda, 32 of them are coming from people in the diaspora. So it looks like more Ugandan in the diaspora is following your work back home here, more than maybe even the guys.
Wow, that's humbling. And good to know that what we're doing, people are paying attention.
Yeah.
And in so doing, probably we are touching the right button.
I think so, and a lot of people believe. Some people want to know, there was a giant software developer that came to Uganda and closed just when COVID came in, and people were wondering, and so how is this happening? And I think the model that you guys have, sort of like challenging the traditional way of doing things. Normally, we don't see leadership. People don't look at leadership as an integral part of development at any level. Going forward, we always just focus on this program and that's it. But yours seems to be different, and the CEO Bench often asks people to nominate. The program exists to fuse the two things, the intellectual part of things, together with the business part of things, and having the bridge between the two to be able to coexist and to move together is a very interesting part for us. And most people often say that CEOs or general managers or people at a certain level like yours are simply salesmen, but at a higher level.
Which is true.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I agree with
and
that.
with very high inclinations towards leadership and vision bearing is always placed upon their shoulder. So we got a lot of nomination for you, and many of them want to know what this killing is about, where is it going to turn people, and I think it's rightly so because of the discussion we're going on right now.
Yeah.
But first, we want to start from a lighter note, Michael. Now that we've given you the background, who is Michael Niyitegeka if we're to show up and start asking? For somebody in New York, in Dublin, who doesn't know very much how Uganda is.
Michael Niyitegeka is a gentleman that is very passionate about people growth.
Okay.
Very, very passionate. And if you were to ask me what is that one purpose that I have here on earth, it is to enable greatness. Okay. If for lack of better ways of putting it, enable greatness. And I think for me, nothing gives me a better smile than people that I've worked with, taught, and see them in places that I would want to be, but they're there. And for me, that gives me a lot of satisfaction. So in all that I do, it's not so much about me. It's those that I'm working with or those that are coming through the programs that we set out to do. So for me, that's what would define me. And the second aspect is that, yes, a lot of people know me in the IT space, but I've never studied IT.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never. And I went into IT purely out of passion.
Okay.
That's one. Two, it's also passion and purpose.
Okay.
Because you can be passionate about something, but you're not intentional about it. And so I got into IT purely from passion and purpose. And I always tell the story. I went into the faculty of IT to teach business.
In IT?
In IT. Well, they had modules in business.
But they were not very specific. That's why I'm underlining that word.
Yes,
business.
So there were there were business courses in the IT program.
Yeah.
And for me, I always believe in contextualizing.
That right there.
Yes. Yeah. So when I started teaching these courses, I said, look, if I'm teaching a business student, the business I'm teaching will be different from the person I'm teaching IT.
Yeah.
So the more I try to shift and understand business in the IT space, or IT in the business space, the more I started looking at technology from a different perspective. And what that did for me then was created a different vibe or a different variation from your traditional IT guys, who are hardcore coding, hardcore networking. I looked at myself as the guy in the middle who understands business and brings the technology at the side. And it's coming to it's 20 years.
Wow.
Maybe about 16 years in the IT space, because I was in my career for 12 years until 2013 when I left, and stepped out and
went into another university, basically.
Well, that was a transition. In between was a space where I thought I was going into corporate. But then when something is very strong in you, I then started going to different hubs trying to tell them, can we set up a program that prepares people for the world of work? But I realized that some of these places were not aligned to what I was thinking about. And as I think it was Viktor Frankl, I read somewhere that when you detect that you created for, nature conspires.
True. Absolutely true.
So Refactory is really a conspiration of nature, where I meet people, random people, by the way, and they say we have some funding and we want to set up an IT program in Uganda. The rest is history.
Wow. Well, we are talking to Michael Niyitegeka, who is the country manager for ICDL Africa, as well as the program director at Clarke International University, a university in Uganda set to, you know, take people to another level of skilling. And now we want you to share this link far and wide. We're live on YouTube, on Twitter, and of course on our website, www.houseoftalentug.com. Get there and share it far and wide. Please make sure that your grandmother, your cousin, your grandpa, everybody is set, because that was just the beginning of the interview. Michael is going to take you on a ride, and I think the first opening of it for me sort of like put me to where the CEO bench is supposed to be. Michael, I want to take you back a little bit. You know, from the ancestry point of view, growing up, which part of this country do you come from? First of all, are you Ugandan? If yes, what are the values that define you as a Ugandan?
Ugandan, in and out. Parents from Kisoro and migrated to Fort Portal in the tea estates. Dad was worked in the tea estates until he passed on in 2017. From 1969 to 2017.
In the beautiful city of Fort Portal.
Fort Portal, but the outskirts. So I have grown up, was born and raised in Fort Portal.
Yeah.
I speak Rutoro, I speak Runyankore, I speak Ruchiga, Kinyarwanda without a problem, Kinyarwanda Rufumbira without a problem. And so, yes, what defines me and makes me proud as a Ugandan, I think this country is like no other.
Wow.
I had an opportunity to travel. And I'll tell you this, my first opportunity to travel out of this country, I applied for a visa to go to Norway. And I was still young. I think I was still just starting work at university. And they raised an objection regarding my visa. He said, this is a young man, what is he going to do? And so they called me for an interview, a follow-on interview. And I remember, I was like, if I don't get this interview, if I don't get the visa, so be it. But the lady told me, asked me a question. So Michael, tell me one reason why I should believe you that you're going to come back.
Wow.
And I told her, I said, look, quite a number of people come into this country and never want to go back. Why do I want to leave this country? And she told me, please come back for your visa.
Yes.
I actually think I can't survive in another country for long. My kids always laugh at me and say, the longest I've been away is a week.
Wow.
I think Uganda,
yes,
is perfect.
Wow. Michael, that's a very interesting point, because that makes the two of us. I don't think there is any country on planet Earth better than Uganda, in my view. I have had opportunity to travel from a very humble background to Africa has 54 countries, and I've been to 34 of them.
Wow.
And my target is to do all of them before I go to the fourth floor.
You're doing well.
Yeah. And my reason was I need to be able to do what my father was not able to do, or what my great parents were not able to do. They had money, they had everything, they lost it along the way, and things happened. But one of the things that is fascinating for me was going to Europe. And I've been to a number of countries in Europe and in America, and even in South America, and in Asia. There is no country, the closest country that was closed to Uganda is a country called Chile. I think it has 1.5 harvesting rain season, natural rain season in a year. It's the closest in terms of food and the weather. And I think the second closest is Brazil. The rest don't cut it for me. So I'm like you. I'll go there. The first time they ask me and says, aren't you going to disappear in the country? I said, well, you can be very sure you will not have to look for me to come back to Uganda. I will come back and report and even write to you, thank you that I am back in the country.
Actually, I told that the same thing I told to the Norwegian council. I said, when I report, not even a day extra, I'll tell you that I am back into this country. This country is amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I don't want to say confusion, but in whatever structure we're in, this country is magical. Yes. So I can go on and on.
Yes. But that launches us to you coming to the bench today. And Michael, you are on the CEO bench. The nominations that we always bring people to the CEO bench is first because people want to know who you are, and two is more about the journey. And I want to start from, the point of leadership before we go into a break. What is your understanding of leadership or definition of leadership, if you would define leadership from the Michael point of view?
For me, leadership, to be honest with you, Eddie, is nothing other than enabling others to be better than you. I'll be very honest with you. So the team that I lead at Refactory, I am emphatic about this. I tell them, my work is to give you space. My work is to help support you. And that's really my work as a leader. That everybody who has an opportunity to interact with Refactory or any program that I work with does not see a position, but sees growth. So for me, it's your vision. And the people that we've hired, I always have a one-on-one even before we do the sign-off of the contract. I want to hear from you. What does this mean for you? Where are you coming into this role? And if we're able to clarify that and we are seeing your mission, our mission is aligned, then we sign on. And so I intentionally try to find out, are you still aligned to your purpose and mission?
Very important.
So for me, that's what leadership is. How many, and I'm happy to see people that I've worked with say, Michael, this was good journey. I think I've gotten what I was supposed to get. I am out. And I'm like, good. If you have that confidence of saying, I am out, that means you've reached a certain level of leadership in terms of growth. So that's how I see, and that's how I practice leadership.
So on that note, Michael, are you a leader?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because what is leadership without enabling those that you work with to see their greatest potential? What is leadership? I tell people I'm not a micromanager. I suck at micromanagement. If we meet each other, we agree on the job to be done, and there's clarity on the job to be done. The minimum I expect is clarification. Clarify, I'm not understanding this, I'm not doing this, am I doing this the right way? If there's that clarity and you're doing what you're supposed to do, let's run. And when we reach a point where you get to a point of boredom, let's find something that is challenging. And so for me, I don't chair any meeting at Refactory. Someone else chairs meetings. And I'm also called to account for my time.
It's very interesting and very fascinating to listen to you, Michael, because you bring in a totally new, different dynamics. It's something I long for a very long time. It's something I'm always looking for as a person in leadership. I joined leadership at a very young age, but also my background from home, family, has always been leadership. Yes, so we've had it in our DNA, so I get very frustrated. So to find a man who is speaking like you, and this probably drive me to one of the votes that came from, University of California. Somebody nominated you from University of California and says, do you know this guy? I said, yeah, I know him. I was singing in a coffee shop. He says, I'd like to recommend that you bring that guy on the CEO bench one of these days. And I said, well, he's already having more votes. And I asked him on the chat, we're chatting on, Facebook Messenger, and he said, I said, why particularly have you picked on this one? He says, I think he represents a new breed of Ugandans who are not seeing. And at the moment, there are a lot of blurry stuff in the country. Too much clutter. No one is talking about something that is more sensible. Wow. I think if you bring that guy on the show, we'll be able to see things from a certain level. This vote particularly is the reason why it came in, and I made a phone call to you and I said, I think now is about the time. Wow. I understand where they're coming from. Wow. Because here leadership is taken from a different perspective. I must sit on you. You must not be able to see. I am the bull in the crowd. No one says anything unless I have said it. No one speaks until I have spoken. And I saw this in universities, in schools, in corporates. It's the reason why I walked out of my dream of becoming a corporate person in 2006 and says, okay, I'm sorry, I don't think I belong here. But you're saying it different, Michael. I mean, Michael, why do you have this kind of thinking, first of all?
Yeah, so it really comes from, I don't know. So my dad was an interesting person. He was very tough, and I don't have that level of toughness in terms of if you messed up, you with him, it. Yes. He would go with you. Yeah. Like he didn't even have a problem of taking you on if he had to. Because if he was annoyed, he was annoyed.
Yes, you would not know whether
he wouldn't have a problem with you. But then I saw quite a number of people go through his training, his mentorship, and he found a lot of joy in seeing people grow. So part of it is from that. But also I've been fortunate enough to surround myself with people that are human, if I could put it that way. That the more you expose yourself and begin to engage with some of these people that are high up, you realize actually this is not rocket science. But from a practice perspective, I think my first big position that I held at where I had people that were reporting to me was in Makerere. I was in charge of exams and academic programs, and quite a lot of students remember me from that. And I had a team of people that I was working with. So first of all, I was trying to create a new culture at the Faculty of Computing then. And the culture of let's make this happen and let's make it big.
Not let me make this happen.
Let's make it happen. Yes. And let's make it big. Yeah. We restructured the exam processes in the faculty. We put in a structure that students felt like there is a process. To the extent that students used to tell me, we are a university within a university. That the faculty felt like, look, the other faculties, but for us, the way we operate here is not different. And who made that happen? It's the people, the young assistant lecturers, teaching assistants, that I rallied and said, guys, let's make this happen. Let's make this happen. Let's make everybody feel like being in this faculty is the greatest pride. And the more I did that, the more I saw people coming on Sunday. The more I saw people coming on Saturdays. And just people showing up. And all you had to do was to recognize and say, thank you. And to date, I left the faculty in 2013. I am still in touch with almost all the people that I worked with. A number of them have gone ahead and gotten PhDs, but they still appreciate. So from academic superiority, they beat me hands down. They have. I didn't. Yes. I didn't cut it for PhD.
You are yet going there.
Well, I'm not sure whether I was. I kind of. I think that's what sometimes you quickly get to, and I'm glad I actually took that decision because I applied for a PhD program. There were scholarships in the faculty. But then I asked myself a question: why am I doing this PhD? And my answer was very clear. I was doing it because the university expected me to do it, or wanted me to do it if I was to stay as an academic member of staff. I didn't see myself in that equation. I saw the employer 100% in the equation. And so I said, do I have 4 years to spend doing something for someone else? And the answer was emphatic no. I went and I pulled out my application.
Wow.
And the dean, Professor Bariamariwa, told me, says, why? Who does this? Full scholarship, everything available. Who does this? And I told him, I said, Prof, it hasn't connected.
It's not my thing.
This is not me. I said, maybe give it time, think about it. Tried a few other places. Again, it was just not connecting.
9 years down the road?
And it was no PhD. And I'm okay.
Hold it right there. I told you Michael is a powerhouse. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, the CEO bench will continue from that part. I think we've already talked about self-leadership and what leadership is. We're going to talk to Michael briefly after the break about leadership journey and what one needs to do and how you can go about it. Very intriguing decision-making process. It's a clear definition of thinking fast and fast before you make a decision, because no one ever throws a silver plate given to them with everything in it just because they have a purpose. What is your story? Share with us your comment, kisses and disses, and we'll definitely read it up here. Michael and I are going to be back after this break. Stay right there. This is a CEO Bench. Eddie Okela, Michael. We'll be right back after this.
My name is Dr. Jinpo Olowo. Thank you for watching House of Talent Television. I love to inspire people. I love to talk about my experiences and how God has been able to use me in the different exposures. And through the leadership, through change management and transformation, I've been able to do a couple of things in my life. Now, are you a kind of person who is tired of your status quo? Do you want your situation to change? Are you tired of what is going on in your life? You know, change is a fact of life. We've all been through experiences in the last couple of months that have taken us to a place where we need to do something about our lives. We need to change whatever is going on. So if you have not piled up investment for yourself, you need to do that. If you've not done businesses to hold your family in future, you need to do that. Are you thinking of full-time employment? You need to be thinking about your life after employment or your business in the next couple of years. So if you want us to chat, if you want us to talk about this, please get in touch with us at CIL Uganda on number 0772443085, or check our website www.ciluganda.com, or on all the social media handles. You can hook me up on Facebook, that is Jinpo Olowo, on Instagram, Jinpo Olowo, and on Twitter and LinkedIn. Then we can chat a way forward with you. We can help you, we can coach you, we can walk with you this journey of financial freedom. Thank you.
Welcome back from that break. Eddie Okela, Michael, Niyitegeka in the studio, and we're talking change management, leadership, and transformation. And I want to take Michael from that point, switching gear a little bit, Michael. Your thinking is not the traditional thinking in Uganda. Your thinking is not a traditional thinking in Africa. Africa has this different way of thinking about leadership. The outlook on leadership is very different. It's about the king, it's about me. It's not always about empowering people to go. And I want to pick from one of my leadership, coaches. I didn't agree with his model for a very long time until later on in life I had to start. John Maxwell often says that leadership grows daily, not in a day. And he keeps saying that he who sees himself on the top alone without people is simply taking a walk in the park. Michael, yet we see you here saying, I enjoy seeing people improve, I enjoy seeing people do great stuff, I enjoy seeing people excel. Where and why do you think, where do you think we are at the moment, and why do you think we are at the level we are at the moment of not wanting other people to grow, not paying attention to personal growth of others other than ourselves?
So it stems from where a lot of us have been groomed.
Yeah.
We've been groomed largely from the industrial structuring,
yeah,
where people are counted among the things. And yes, people, so you say, you talk about assets. One of the assets is people asset. And yet we are in a time when we are dealing with a knowledge economy. And the knowledge economy presupposes that the human being you employ has a brain. And it's not a machine that you turn on and turn off.
Yeah.
Because the industrial economy or the industrial age, people were things, they were counted. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yes. They were counted.
They were counted.
Yes.
And yet, and the reason they were perceived that way is because they have the ability to, well, they didn't have a lot. They were routine. The few guys who were thinking,
the rest were
the managers,
yeah.
The rest, it's toil.
Yeah.
Go through this. And for me, the significant change happened when I started doing work with Franklin Covey.
Oh yeah.
Because while I went through the certification, became a certified facilitator with Franklin Covey.
Yeah.
And in there were nuggets of leadership that that have gone on to define a lot of feelings that I stand with. The one of them is the belief in what he calls Steve Covey.
The
Covey.
7 effects of...
So he has the 7 habits of highly effective people.
Yeah.
But then he had, there was one program there called the leadership program.
Yes.
So...
which had the 5 levels of leadership.
Yes, the great leaders, great teams, great leaders, great teams, great results.
Yes.
In there is a concept that hit me, and it's called the whole person paradigm.
Yeah.
Now, the whole person paradigm talks about 4 paradigms of 4 aspects of an individual.
Yeah.
That there is a human, there's a body that we see every day.
Yeah.
There is a brain.
Yes.
There is the heart.
Yes.
And there's the soul.
Yes.
He says every single day, that person in your workplace comes with one thing for sure. They'll bring their body. The other 3, they volunteer
To give you.
So they will volunteer whether to put their brains to work or they will just stay status quo.
The mess we're in, let's maintain it.
Let's just keep the way we are running. Yeah. They will volunteer to feel empathetic.
But they're not real.
They will volunteer, but they could also decide, who cares?
I may just do my stuff. And
if clients are running away, let them run away.
Yeah.
I don't really care. But they also volunteer to have that spiritual connection with the organization.
Yeah.
And so for me, that stuck. That if you're going to lead people, it is important that you're able to tap into the other 3, not just the body that comes to work.
Yes.
Now, industrial age was you were present.
Yes.
That's all that mattered.
And signed, that's
all mattered. We've been locked down since March.
Yeah.
That's when we stopped, we locked shop at Refactory. Yeah. And within a week or two, we had a cohort that was supposed to be starting. That cohort couldn't start because physical class had been closed. Yeah. And we're stuck. We're like, so what do we do? So I told the guys, I said, you know what? We have a grant, we have reporting to deliver. The way I see these things, we are not about to open. So we have an option to stay closed or to open up. Which one do we go for? And the team was like, let's open up. I said, but how do we open up? They said, let's try virtual classes. That was when nobody else had thought about virtual classes. I said, okay, how will it work? Guys, you know what? We've been using Zoom for meetings. Can we use Zoom for classes? I said, okay. And a couple of people were like, hey, go slow, what? We said, let's ask the students, how many have laptops and can commit to attending classes? Out of the 32, 28 had. I said, guys, let's run.
That's a good starting point.
We will not wait to get. Now, for me, that was a clear indication to work.
Yeah. It is said that, Michael, anyone can steer the ship, but it will always take a leader to chart the course.
Yep.
And I've also seen and noticed from your approach that the 5 cohorts that you have done and the first initial thinking of, guys, what should we do? Whether stay locked or stay open.
Yeah.
And they say,
I serious. I'm like, no. Serious. I'm like, no. You see, because that gets me into an adrenaline kind of mode. Yeah. I want the next episode. And therefore, these guys are like,
what is the expected end of this thing? Yes.
Like they have a hold on me, and I'm like, no. I want to be at peace with myself.
Yes.
Like when I choose to watch a movie, it ends.
Yes.
And also because I think a lot of the movies tend to have a lot of science and fiction, a lot of things, and I'm there trying to do a lot of analysis. And so the kid saw me and says, stop doing that. Just enjoy.
Yeah.
Now, so that's what I would say about personally.
Yeah.
So I have taken time to appreciate who I am.
Yeah.
I've taken time to appreciate that if I'm going to stay in the space that I'm in, I have to invest in myself continuously. I'll tell you, Eddie, I wake up early in the morning and the first 1 hour, I'll probably be reading a blog. I don't follow very many people on Twitter. And people always castigate me and say, pause, and I'm like, no. It's a choice.
Yes. Which you have to make.
Yes.
Yes.
And
for you're entitled to that choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I want to follow value.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, now there you have touched the right value. Yes.
So I want to follow value.
Yeah.
And where do I find value?
Yeah.
Who are the guys at the forefront of defining a lot of the things that we are seeing in technology and leadership?
Yeah.
So I will read articles from McKinsey, I'll read articles from Harvard, I'll read articles. I subscribe to these entities because for me, those give me a different perspective.
Yes.
And that's what I keep feeding myself.
Yeah.
In the 7 habits of highly effective people, there's habit 7, which is sharpen the soul.
Yes.
And so you have to keep sharpening and challenging your mind. I will volunteer to do things that I have not even thought about. So people will call me and say, Michael, can you give a talk on this? And I'm like, I've never done it. I'm like, yes, I will. And I'll spend the next 2 days reading about it.
That's the mindset of a winner and a visionary person.
Yeah. So people say, you're good. And I'm like, I wish you knew. But when you called, I actually didn't have an idea about it. Actually, there was a time when reporters used to call me to ask me about some of this stuff in technology. And some of the stuff I didn't even know about. So I'm like, okay, you called me when it was quite hectic. Can I call you back? But calling back is for me to go back and say, by the time you called me, expect me to know this stuff. So I'm not going to just pass it. Yes. So I push myself.
Wow.
So from knowing myself, I constantly feed myself and nourish myself mentally, physically, emotionally, and anything that stresses me, I will quickly run away from it.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we're talking to Michael. I hope you pick a thing or two from Michael. Michael and I are going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to dive into change management. Change management means Michael moving from Makerere University. Okay, many years of doing that, and straight into the world of private entrepreneurship, thinking for other people, making life easy for other people, while you expect to receive a paycheck at the end of the day. But first is value. How was that moving? Not everyone is able to do that. Some people are still stuck at Makerere since Michael left, and they are not aware and do not know where to go, where to start from, or even what to do. And some of you are watching this program probably wondering, how do I move? And of course, the biggest number of people watch this program is always looking for, how do I move from one step to the next? So today, Michael has the nomination, the vote to come here and share with you that change management journey, and was it communicated? Stay right there. Michael and I are going to go for a break, and when we come back, we'll dive into change management and transformation. And of course, the CEO bench will be reading some of your comments as and when we go on. We'll be right back after the break.
And then when development, the renewable energy side of it, I believe close to 90% of energy that's used in Uganda comes from wood, from trees. Yeah. And most of that goes to obviously cooking and industrial use. So if we switch from cooking with firewood and charcoal to cooking with other, things like, cooking fuel made from waste instead, be it biogas or be it briquettes or pellets, that can make a difference, because suddenly we know in another generation, trees that are being planted today will not be cut, and we may see things change.
You can imagine by the time we came into KCCA 2011, this entire city of almost 4 million people during day, it had only 9 junctions signalized. So how much control do you have over traffic with just 9 junctions? Some of them not even working properly. I've been to a number of cities when we were preparing that project for the junctions. We went to quite a number of Japanese cities to look at the model that best suits Kampala. And we went to a city like Tokyo. The traffic control center of Tokyo is so huge that they control maybe about 18,000 junctions in the city. And it was clearly way beyond our capacity. We don't need it yet. We went to another city of I think it was Nagoya, very huge. And we had to find a city which had similar characteristics to Kampala. And then that is the kind of control center we are prepared to manage in the city, and that is what is being designed. So the level of control of traffic that we had in Kampala was so low for the number of vehicles that we have. Even the infrastructure was very low grade. So how many traffic police will you deploy at all those junctions without signals? You can't have that manpower. So we need to automate these things. These things are coming. I agree that that was Mr. Okwi Dennis in Australia.
Okay, yes.
I agree that things are taking quite long.
Yeah.
But I think it would help if KCCA publicized all these programs and gave to the public the timelines under which they are going to happen. They are surely going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the program. My name is Edio Killer, and in the studio, my guest this morning or this afternoon, this night, or the evening, depending on which part of the world you are actually watching the program from, is Michael Niyitegeka, who is a former lecturer at Makerere University, but now is the program director, Refactory at Clarke International University in Kampala, as well as the country manager for ICDL Africa, which we're yet to get into it. And of course, and talk about it. Michael, welcome back to the program. Before we went for a break, you were breaking some really very complex stuff that people should be aware of, but they are not. Things that makes people, move people to do things, but we don't. And I want to take you straight to managing change, Michael. But first, you need to give us, from the leadership perspective, you've talked about self-leadership and team leadership. There are 5 different leadership approaches that we have. And I want to run you through them. You'll tell us which one you practice and why you choose that model. And then you'll give us 2 things that anyone who is watching this show should be able to practice from today. And if they do, in 6 months, their life will be different. Or in 4 months, their life will be different, just like yours was. 1, there's a laissez-faire leadership type. And there is, a transformational leadership type. There is autocratic leadership approach, and there's what we call transactional leadership approach, and there's what we call the democratic leadership approach, or often referred to as what the likes of Mahatma Gandhi's and the Barack Obama's practiced. Which of these do you practice, Michael, and why?
So I'm quite disruptive.
Yes.
I always ask, so what informed these models, and why do I need to be defined?
Yes.
By these characteristics.
Yes.
So, but if I was to say, I think for me it's transformation.
Okay.
Because you see, leadership is about moving from one level to another.
Yeah.
And you can only move when you transform.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I always tell people that transformation doesn't have to be the city. Transformation starts with you.
Yeah.
And I always tell people that you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah.
So you cannot transform people if you haven't transformed yourself.
Yeah.
So it is important that in whatever way, in whatever practice you're in, always ask yourself the question, do I have what it takes to lead you to the next? In other words, if I was to give you anything, do I have anything within me that I can give?
And I still remain with something.
And still remain with something. Because you see, that occurred to me when I was reflecting while I was still teaching at university. Was, look, we are talking about preparing people for the world of work. How many of us have been to that world of work?
Very important question.
Yeah. So how do I prepare you for a world that I don't understand?
And have not been to.
And have not been to.
Yeah.
How do I prepare you to become a good software engineer if I've never worked on a software engineering project for a client?
Wow.
I know that making sense.
A lot of sense.
Yeah. So and I remember one of the things I proposed to the university then is that we should have an internship program for all lecturers.
Oh, I would be able to host some of them here. That would be very nice.
And take them out, because you see, the way universities, our education system is structured, it is structured on academic ability. So you're retained as a university lecturer because you got a first class. But the world out there is saying, we want your graduates to come and do, and not prove to us that they have academic ability.
Wow. Yo! So this show is going on. Yes.
Now, universities elsewhere have quickly moved, and they have started appointing what they call professors of practice. So Eddie, based on the work that you're doing, you have acquired significant experience. And because you have acquired this experience, a university can appoint you as a professor of practice. Why? Because you bring to the space practice that academics does not have.
Wow.
And I just was not comfortable, because it's one of the biggest problems I had was that a lot of students were graduating from university.
80,000 students we graduated. COVID came and disturbed it a little bit in Uganda.
But universities, total, that's the kind of numbers. But majority were not finding jobs. And so for me, there was that probing. Can we prepare our students better?
Wow.
Can we prepare our students better? And it even got more complicated, and I think more disturbed on my part, when I went to do supervision for industrial training. And I found that the students that were sending for industrial training were actually not doing any training. They were turned into glorified office messengers, if I could put it that way. So go peep, the printer has jammed, so you go pull out paper, open toner, shake it a bit, return it. And you're like, okay, so
bring
you like
the files, this
you
and
spent
all
here
that.
10 weeks, what have you been doing? When there's I go and check the switch.
That's not the practice we sent you for.
That I proposed, and we did a trial with Solomon King. Bengue. And we ran an internship program at Makerere. I called him, I said, you come and train these guys from here. When you were still running Node 6. And he came, took on 50 students, trained them web design. Wrote a report. That report, those students were in year 2. His report was that there was no indication from a skill perspective that these guys had done about 3 modules in web development.
Wow. Wow. We once had this situation here, Michael, from UCU. House of Talent used to receive a lot of students coming from different universities for internship. And I remember in the year 2013, we had 10 students. I think 2 were from Ndeje, 3 were from Makerere, 3 were from UCU and Nkumba. We sort of like took on 5. Now, these were year 2, studying communication, and to be precise, they were doing information technology. Some of them were becoming journalists and stuff like that. And when we brought them, only 1 student, Jovia Akia, was even taken out of Uganda. When we wrote the report back to the universities, only UCU, the entire, UCU faculty of mass communication, including their leader, came to look for House of Talent somewhere around Mawanda Road in the suburbs of Kampala, to say that you sent us back a girl that returned to the university and she was better than everyone in year 3. What did you do to this girl? She was in year 2. And when she graduated from the university, it was such an interesting journey, because she was later on picked, and I think she now lives and works in Sweden or somewhere thereabout. Wow. And what you have just said drive me to a question of, Michael, how do we change this going forward?
I mean, to the issue of change management.
Yes.
And you see, change begins at a point where there's pain.
Yeah.
And for as long as there is comfort in what mainstream university is doing, that they haven't seen an alternative because there's no alternative, change won't happen.
Wow.
Yeah. So for change to happen, entities like Refactory are there to begin to catalyze that change and say, wait a minute. I have had students who have done 4 years of software engineering and have come to us and they say the stuff they learn in 3 months is not anywhere comparable to the stuff they have learned in 4 years. I remember one time tweeting and I said, who decided that a degree program should be 3 years? Who?
Yes.
Who decided?
It was the people who gave us the formal education structure
again
to prepare us for the industrial training.
Granted, because you see, there was that assurance that when you finish, you will find X, Y, Z. If I'm a believer of functionality over form.
Oh yes.
What will make you function as opposed to what form must you possess? Like you've done all the theories, you've done all these, but I'm a believer of functionality. Now, people will tell you, for academics is not about only just functionality. So we must give you basis, approach, all the things that you need to know. Granted, must they take 4 years?
Certainly not.
Thank you. So how do we, because you see, time is no longer luxury.
And COVID has showed us that.
Thank you. So we need to really search deeply and ask ourselves, what do we want?
What do we want to achieve with this?
And then how do we run the transformation? How do we change? And how do we manage change? I think for me, like I said, until it is painful, you can't. And that pain can be self-inflicted. For me, it was self-inflicted. I could have stayed. I probably would be a PhD now, a doctor, and earning the salary, writing publications,
going around the world,
talking conferences and all that. But
which COVID came and destroyed, by the way.
That also.
Yes.
But I think for me, it was more around, what is it for me? It was, this is my call. And it is very clear that this is my call. My call is about enabling greatness.
Wow. Michael, thank you very much for that. I want to take you straight to these comments. We've come to the third part of the show. And first, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we will talk about Refactory.
Okay.
We want to know the change management and the foray into Refactory from that perspective. And what sort of transformation are we seeing in the ICT, sector and the industry where you are. We've read the profile, it looks very amazing, and we wanted to take us through that. But first, I just want to read the very first comment coming here from Killer. Thank you very much. This so far and by far has been, for me, one of the most mind-stimulating interview on the CEO bench I've seen. Can we please have part 2? I'm voting already. I don't know. We'll definitely see how many votes we have. And Michael is here and is going to respond. And I see here another person saying, Killer, thank you very much. First of all, I think that for the first time we have a lecturer giving us a perspective of what it means. We've talked about our academic and our education system in Uganda, and no one has been able to critically think through it and analyze it and present it like Michael is presenting on the show. I hope that his former bosses and the Vice Chancellor and everyone at Makerere University is actually watching this program. If not, can you please deliver it there? Thank you very much. These are too many messages coming on the messenger, and we're definitely going to receive this and share. But we're going to take a break, and when we come back, Michael will dive into the story and change management of him leaving Makerere and what happened and how we ended up at Refactory and what Refactory is all about, and then the transformation it seeks to bring within the ICT world and sector. Stay right there. We'll be right back after this break. People at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They've moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's Bookface. Why are you on Bookface? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying, I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Remember Prince?
Yes.
Prince.
Look at ICT, for instance. There's so much you can do beyond connectivity. If you look at the education sector right now, we have so many. My children have lost 2 years at home for staying at home.
Wow.
You know, the lower level children,
Yes.
they have lost time.
Yeah.
Now, what can you do? What can ICT do? What can you do to bridge the gap?
Yes.
And so we see that there is so much with ICT that we can actually do now to transform lives. I started from a rural school, and we had to sit national exams. You know, with schools that have the privilege of power, we used that time. We used to use, you know, this hurricane lamp. Yes. But you see the same national exams.
Yeah.
But now with ICT, you know, with government, things have changed. We now at least have connectivity, although not reaching to many rural places yet.
Yeah.
With Bosco Uganda, I could see the opportunity of how ICT, you know, their work can transform lives. Not only, by the way, they don't only do ICT, we also have solar. We do solar installations. Yeah. There is one school called John Paul II, a secondary school in Gulu, that received the 30 kilowatt solar energy in partnership with Accenture and the University of Notre Dame. And that has transformed that school completely. They were off-grid, but now they have power. It means the learning hours for students has increased. Teachers are able to access information on the net. Bosco Uganda also supports network, the intranet system, so you can build, you know, an intranet where you can collaborate. So we partnership, for instance, with UNICEF. They established Colibri. They worked on the Colibri content and helped schools to access that. So more than ever now, with ICT, what excites me is that you can actually have education materials available in a school or even in a center, in an ICT center. So what we want to do as Bosco Uganda, in those centers that are already established, for instance, have content there so that even students who are at home, those who go from, you know, the day scholars, secondary school, can go to the library, to the ICT centers, and get education material, whether it is videography or do some research in the centers in the rural areas.
Welcome back from that break. This is your bench, Ed your killer, Michael in the studio. Refactory is the story we're talking about right now, and the organization we are focusing our discussion on right now, and change management. Michael, welcome back to the program. Okay. We're in the evening of our interview. I know there's already a request for part 2, and I know why they want part 2. I particularly agree with them. But Michael, how do I manage change from one step to the next? You say that Makerere, you realize that the things they want you to do were not aligned to your vision. And I want to just paint a picture for you very quickly. I describe leadership as rather a visionary person, as a person who sees what it shall be like and wake up every single day to what it is that needs to get there. It's not the case for so many people. A lot of people don't see this as a very important part, but it's important for you to see what it shall be like and wake up to what it is that needs to get there. And not everyone would turn away a full scholarship with everything in it. And I can understand where Professor Brian Mureba was like, there's something not okay. Are you okay? Because it's not an everyday thing, and yet you did. Michael, if you were to take us through 3 things that at what point do I realize that I'm no longer adding value here, I need to go? Or at what point do I know that I've outgrown the organization, therefore I need to move and look for another challenge? And at what point do I say this is time T for me to start on something new? And how do I start on that something new? If you take us through that and actually transition into the, the refactory and the story behind it.
So I would say you get to feel it.
How do I get to feel it?
You get to feel when your value is diminishing. And for me, value diminishing there were not very many things but the one thing was, I think I got a consultancy in out of the country, so I didn't even ask for permission, which was wrong. But of course, nobody was going to give you permission to travel, so and I'd seen my colleagues doing it anyway. Yes. So I went away for a week, came back. On Monday, I was in a meeting and I received a call, Michael, want you to go back. And I said, hey, went back. And then so 2 weeks away, then I come back and I meet my boss in the corridor and says, hey, Michael, how are you? Yes. I haven't seen you around here for some time. Yes. Like, yeah, you okay? I said, yes, I'm okay. I'm like, wait. I was not just at faculty. I was the head of an office. Yes. I've been away for 2 weeks.
And you have just noticed.
And nobody has even wondered. And at that moment, I was
what is happening with me? Yes.
Value here is beginning to diminish.
Yeah. Wow.
And so you get to know when you're adding value. You also get to know when you're not adding value. Yeah. You feel it. But many of us tend to shut it off and say, no, that's not true.
Actually, it's where I want to interject, Michael. A gentleman wrote to us and said he's struggling to get out of his job. His job pays his school fees for his children. His job gives him the car to drive. His job repairs the car. His job, gives him opportunity to travel around. His job gives him opportunity to meet other people.
Yeah.
But he's been feeling within himself that he's not able to move.
Yeah.
And this is somebody very well known to you who wrote the post, who read the post I posted just a couple of days ago about Michael coming to the show, and he took time to write. And he says, I have been struggling within myself, yet I see Michael, I know him, I see what he's doing, I see the values, I see him in coffee shops, but I don't have the luxury to do that. So because my job gives me this, I have not found opportunity to walk out. So I'm struggling to get it. And yet you talk about value. It is clear that this gentleman, the value is diminishing, but there is something he's stuck to. He says, so I don't know where to start and how to start. Yes. When the gentleman comes to the show, please ask this question without revealing my identity. And he says, rightly so, sir, because that's what this program is about.
So I'll tell you, Eddie,
yes.
There are a lot of things that and we all will be at different levels. Yeah. And I'll say this because it gets to a point where it is a break point. Yeah. Where you're like, now this is it. I resigned from Makerere when I had 6 weeks to end the contract. But for me, it was very clear why I wanted to resign as opposed to end my contract and not renew it. People say, actually, when I put in my resignation, the HR office called me and said, you have 6 weeks to end your contract.
Why don't you just...
I said, no. My contract says 1 month's notice.
Yes.
So I'm giving you 1 month's notice. And I wanted, because I had 2 extra weeks. Yes. But I wanted to be on record that I resigned.
Before.
Because there's a difference between resignation and contract. Yeah. But I also knew there were certain things that were happening in the back end.
Yes.
And I was like, you won't end my movie. I will end my movie. Myself. But because I left at a point where I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, I still have very good rapport with the university community. I mean, I can say I am now on a committee planning for the 100 years celebration of the university. Among all the people that have studied in Makerere, I'm there and I'm excited about it. I was actually humbled that the university reached out to me and said, we want you to be on the committee. So you feel it. But you see, like I said, until it is painful. So I can't tell you jump, because probably the pain goes on and off. But when that pain is so much that you can't even sleep, it won't take a day for you to submit your papers. And you're like, it's not about the school fees. I have a friend of mine who was in a similar situation, working for a big corporation. Everything paid for, the kids were being paid, like he had all the perks. And he said, I am out. And I said, how did you do that? He said, I'm out. He says, enough of this. Let me come and do my own things. We're now talking. We meet, we talk, But so like I said, it is a personal decision. There's no prescription. There's nothing that tells you when you feel this is it. No. That pain is personal. So my friend, that pain hasn't been so significant for you to be uncomfortable. But when it gets to that point, you will jump. Now, the other thing is, and that's why I came to appreciate that when you detect that you created for Nature Conspires. You remember Kibo Foundation?
Yes.
So Abraham, who used to be at Kibo Foundation, used to call me quite a lot to go and support him and run, and I would go and I would not even charge anything. So I was in Fort Portal and Abraham calls me and he says, there are 2 gentlemen who I would like you to meet. These 2 gentlemen are going to want to set up a training program. And I said, fine. So I tell them I'm coming back. I'll meet them over coffee at Cafe Java's. So we met, we talked, and I told them, guys, if you want to set another degree program, I am out.
I'm not interested.
If you want to build a program that will change the face of technology in Uganda, I am in. And I said, fine. I said, and give me the space, because I think I understand. I said, fine.
Where we need to go,
Bam. So when you step out and you are wired for your purpose, you'll be amazed at how many people have been waiting for you out there. That is 2.
Wow.
The third is that change, like I said, and I will say it again, happens when you cannot do without it. So the third point I would say look out for is that what is the universe telling you? Because it's always sending a signal, but you choose to ignore it. The universe is always sending you a signal, but you choose to ignore it. I left Makerere and I didn't have a job. I didn't have anywhere to start with. I was like, let me head out. Maybe I'll start a consultancy, maybe I'll do this. Headed out. I mean, I owe everything to my wife, who looked at me and said, but you man, we have a young family. I said, I think the God that has led me into this is going to lead me through greater things. Wow. And here we are. I have no regrets having taken the decision. So it's personal, there's no template, and I don't even think there's any coaching session that will actually help you. Yes, coaching will kind of give you tidbits here and there, but let's be honest, it's personal.
Wow. Michael, what a story and what a journey. I want us to dive into Refactory.
Yes.
All this done, dusted, and I see the story of the two gentlemen that showed up, photo meeting, things happened. It is clear that it was on your terms. And it's also clear that it's also clear that when they say when preparation, when luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Yes. And I always tell people that if you're not prepared for this, then you're never going to have an opportunity, because when opportunity comes, you're going to tap into it and work. And a friend of mine, and I always say this a lot, says, if you surround yourself with people who have diverse perspective in life, but similar instincts for increase, opportunity will always come and find you. Refactory is one such story from what you have just said. What is Refactory as we end the show, and what sort of transformation does it seek to bring into the ITC sector?
So Refactory is a response to multiple complaints that were coming in from industry. My last position at university was head of corporate engagements, and head of corporate relations was again my initiative. So I went and asked Professor Wariamreva, I said, how can we claim to be a faculty that is industry facing, and yet we have nobody who is very intentional about industry? And so Wariamreva, in his radical leadership, said, why don't you go and write your job description? I told him, I've not come to ask for a job. I'm only sharing an idea. He says, well, if you've thought about it, then you've given it
thought also.
Thoughts. You've really, you're the right person. And I did that. It was in January 2008. In March, no, end of Feb, the HR officer in our faculty tells me, Michael, effective March 1st, you have been appointed the head of corporate relations. And I'm like, what is that? He says, but you told the professor that we need to have an office. I said, can you give me a job description? I said, Anyway, so I started. Now,
and the GOD is always not given by the person who is going into it. So it's another story altogether.
So we put together, because this was out of the university structure. The university doesn't have that position of head of corporate relations, or even a corporate relations officer. So I put together a description and I start working. Now, the more I interacted with industry, the more it was very clear that there is a mismatch between what we are teaching and what the industry is looking for. And the comparison was, especially in the IT space, I would go to places, MTN, DMAC Mobile, if you remember DMAC Mobile,
Dennis
SMS, Dennis. Actually, Dennis was one of the radical guys who used to tell me, says, I don't need your graduates because they don't add value. So
because he pulled out of UTL the same way.
So we set up a meeting when we were doing our curriculum review.
Yeah.
And I said, guys, can we get to hear what the industry is thinking about our programs? Yeah. And so we invite guys from the industry to come. And I remember vividly that meeting. Industry came and told us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 programs. Useless. Get them out. And I said, oh wow. I said, look, these things we no longer practice them, we no longer use. Technology has progressed massively from where you are. What response did we get from the professors? They said, look, your work is to hire, our work is to teach.
As always the case. Yeah.
And for me, that was very, very clear message. I was like, wait a minute. Somebody is telling you the product you're giving me
is
I
not
don't
good.
Like
you
it.
are telling them,
you
take the product.
Whether you like it or not.
Yes.
I remember that meeting and I was like, no, guys, there's a serious problem here. Fast forward. So that stayed with me because I also had quite a number of students that I had groomed that were leaving university and were not finding jobs. And my question was, why can't we find jobs? And I'm reading all this data about IT and the opportunities that there are. And I'm like, this has to happen. So when I left Refactory, when I left my career, I tried to set up training programs. I think I tried Hive, but were not structured.
Hive Collab?
Hive Collab. Yeah. I think I also had a conversation with Zulu at Outbox. Yes. We never got to move it running. And so I get this opportunity and I start. And I had wrong assumptions. My first assumption was that guys have the tech competence, but they lacked the communication software, what people call soft skills, but I tell them, for me, those are life skills. Yes. It doesn't matter what profession.
Business skills, really.
And I think for me, when you call them soft skills, you water the value. Yeah. You water down the value. So I said, no, these are not, these are life skills. Yeah. So we focused on, our first version of the program was life skills, with a bit of tech. Yeah. We were dead wrong. Guys just didn't have the technical competence. So we had to rewrite the program, and that time we meet. I think, so I had an opportunity to have an interaction with Laboremas that had taken one of the people that had come from our program, and they're like, there must be something that you guys are doing right. And so they told me they had made an attempt to set up a program like this, but because they're not mainstream training, they had cut it. Their pain was that they would hire somebody and it would take them at least 1.5 years to get this person ready. Wow. So you're paying them a salary, you're giving them these allowances, you're
all the benefits.
But you're investing in this person, and you start seeing value after 1.5 years. Yeah. And so they had resorted to picking guys from India, from different parts of the world. But they were really passionate about employing Ugandans. I said, guys, I need to understand what your pain is. And so Laboremas then comes on board and starts telling us, these are the things that we want you to focus on. So Refactory is a response to this need
in the market.
In the market. Now, we have been running this program for the last, let's say, 3 years or so, the revised program. And Refactory, we applied for a grant from the Norwegian government, and that grant brought in two other partners. Two other partners, Laboremas Uganda and Fontes Foundation. Yes. So we go into that space, we design the program, rebrand the whole thing, brand the whole program. So Refactory is born out of that in 2019. Let me tell you, Eddie, 2019 to 2021 has been massive. I'm not a believer of mass, like
big numbers.
Big numbers. I'm a believer of do quality, let that quality go and have impact.
Yes, and numbers will follow.
And numbers will follow. Yes. No, even this one person who is good will infect 2 others.
Yes.
And it will keep on spreading.
Yes. It's what we call quantifiable, justifiable, measurable metrics.
Yeah. we can head in that direction. Yeah. So, I was looking at the numbers. We've had over 1,000 people in our outreach initiatives go through our programs, different programs, outreach. We've had about 320, close to 320 at the end of this year, the ones who are completing. We'll have done about 320 guys who can now go into the tech industry and start working. And we are averaging about 80% of all the people that go through our programs who find employment within 6 months.
Wow.
Now, the way Refactory is structured is that we have the first 3 months, which is really building the foundation. We take in anybody. We don't care your qualification. We don't care where you've been to school. All we care about is, can you speak English? Can you understand English? That's a minimum.
You are upsetting the status quo, man.
And for me, that's what I'm looking for. Because I'm trying to say, for you to be an engineer, what are the fundamentals that you need? Because if you understand the principles and practice, let me ask you, Eddie, how much time does it take for the guy who repairs your car? Did you ever ask them how many years they spent before they started servicing your car? Probably not. The guy,
a short time,
yes. So for some of these skill-oriented courses, we need to understand the principles. Now, for technology, it's even more complex. You don't need much. Why? Because technology is changing very fast. But if you have understood the principles and the foundations of doing what you're supposed to be doing, the rest will tend to flow. So we do 3 months. Now, after 3 months, we then get to a point where we have a sieving point. Because there are now people who have decided, I thought I was actually keen on this, I'm actually not.
Self-realization.
Yeah. Then there are those who I want to go for the next level. So those who want to go to the next level, we take them through an interview process. Now here they are students, then they go into what we call the boot camp. Now when they go to boot camp, the roles change. They are now employed.
Wow.
So we give them an appointment letter. So they have a 6 months apprentice program. You pay them a stipend. Because the grant helps us. The grant helped us to do it. Now, the guys who go through our 9 months, so the 6 months program is structured in a way that you have an opportunity to work on a project. And that project comes from industry. It is not what we've imagined. No, there's a client X
who needs this.
For
this particular reason.
For this particular reason.
Yes.
And so the students are assigned to deliver. They're like consultants now. So they set up meetings, you set up your vision scope, you set up all these things. And in 6 months, you must have delivered that project. So they now begin to use the tools that we have exposed them to. And tell them, here are the tools. So we check on them. Now, what I was trying to say, the reason I did it that way is because a lot of people think about internship. But when I did my own survey, not very many companies in this country have a training program.
No.
So when you take people for internship in a place that doesn't have a training program, you are not adding value to those people. So that's why we decided we will manage the process on our end. The guys who go through our 9 months program, 93% will find employment in the first 6 months.
Which is not something the industry usually have.
Hear this. Close to 60% of the guys who have come through our program have never studied IT.
But they are now IT experts.
They are now hired as IT people. One of the guys who was recently, I think, hired by Stanbic Bank doesn't have a degree. Why? Because the world has come to a point of the least I have is to align you to my working processes, but I don't have time to teach you the basics.
And then you will learn the basics, the rest it's also...
You should have come
yes.
ready to run,
yes.
like you can walk.
Yes.
Labremas has told us that from 1.5 years, it's now coming to about 6 months. So we have cut their lead time
yes.
by a year.
Wow.
To get somebody productive.
Wow. This is...
So you remember what I told you about
yes.
the pain?
Yes.
If we have multiple refactories,
yes.
because we get students who are supposed to be joining university,
yeah.
and they find people who have been to university, who have
yes.
done 4 years degree
yes.
program.
Yes.
And they're like, so these guys are telling them, the stuff I've learned here is way better than the stuff I learned the other side.
Yeah.
And the student's like, but why do I need to go to university? I'm like, well, I think you still need to go to university.
Yes.
Because at one time that qualification
will be needed. Yes.
Will be needed. Yeah. So now the other thing that we have also learned, and I tell people, is that the software industry is way broader than writing code. So that's the one thing that we tell people, that you can be a project manager and you don't need to be an expert in code. But there's value for you to know how code is done. You can be a product owner and you don't have to be a code writer. Yeah. So there are like 5 distinct roles in the software business. Yeah. And each of these is a track on its own. Each of these.
And each of them needs to come together.
And we are very intentional in exposing these students to these roles. Now, the unfortunate bit is that in your mainstream, if you pick up the software engineering degree program curricula, you won't see this distinction.
Because you have got to major in one of those.
You don't have to major, but you need to broaden. Because these are roles. Yeah. You still need to be a software. You need to understand how code is written. Yeah. You need to understand how software is built. Yeah. But there is a function. So that you like, okay, I am not technically good with code, but I'm good with people. There's a role for you. Yeah. I am graphical. I like playing with colors. There's a role for you. Yeah. We call a user experience manager.
Yes.
You
in
get
marketing,
it?
we call them in communication, call them human-centered design.
Yes, so we do human-centered design. Yeah. Those principles are there. we work with human-centered design, we work with design thinking, we do critical thinking, we do community engagement. Actually, our program, about close to 40% of our modules are non-technical. But we call them life skills. The other thing that is quite unfortunate is that you see, when people do social sciences, they think life is that. And I've told guys, I said, look, tech needs social scientists.
A lot.
Yeah. Now, here's the problem. Your social scientist at Makerere or any other university is not prepared for this.
And does not know what
because the curriculum has not been reoriented
to fit that model.
Yes. So you get a student and you're like, so how is technology influencing behavior? Yeah. Because that's what social science is largely. You're looking at society and its evolution. Education generally is an elephant. Generally. For it to turn, it will first go up to game and turn. But now that's life. Yes. That's about 10 years.
Yes. Before you make a 360 turn.
Yeah. And I'll end with this, Eddie. I had an opportunity to do a consultancy for technical colleges in Uganda. Yeah. And one of the things I remember telling them, I said, look, this curricula that you're teaching is out of touch
with the reality of things.
Yeah. And I went to Toyota and had a conversation with the guys at Toyota, and they said, look, we can't take on those guys simply because, you see, the technology they are using is technology that these cars have stopped using. All the cars we are bringing in no longer use this technology.
We already, for example, engines are VVTi, so we're no longer back to the carburetor system.
You need to plug, and the computer will do the diagnosis and tell you that the thing is done. Now, I proposed to the colleges, I said, we need to change this curriculum. And they said, oh, yeah, I think you're right. But then my assignment ended and your life moves on. So recently I met somebody who is involved in designing curriculum for the technical colleges. And I said, on your team, do you have somebody who is looking at software engineering? And he looked at me and said,
software engineering in technical colleges? No.
I said, look, tell me any engineering discipline that is not influenced by software. Tell me. And he said, I think you're right.
Yes.
I said, yeah. So?
Why are we not having this?
Why aren't you teaching these guys the basics at the very minimum of software engineering? Because they have no option
than to learn it.
They have no option than to use it. So they're going to learn by force. If they can't learn, their jobs are gone. So for me, Refactory is really that, is to keep catalyzing. We are now looking at new programs. We hope to start blockchain, data science, cloud engineering, all these other things. And I'm saying you don't need a degree for starters, because the process of getting degrees designed and accredited takes forever. So we'll start with short courses. And my dream is to see Refactory become a platform where disruption happens in education.
Well, you've heard from Michael right there. What an interesting journey, what a very transformative journey. And I'm a student of transformational leadership, and I practice that. I'm a masterful on looking at social systems and causing change in an individual first, with a view that change is going to cause change in the social system and be able to transform society moving forward. And what I see here is that you've taken this beautifully and packaged it for transformation to be seen in communities, in families, in communities, in individuals, in families, in communities, and all across the nation, if we take this from it. And Michael, we want to say thank you very much for accepting our invitation to come to the show. And I want you to just, what message would you have to those who have nominated you to come into this program today? But first, before you do that, I got some very interesting, I know our time is up, but I'm going to read for you this one interesting, message that has just come from Germany. Niyitegeka, thank you so much. My name is Edwin. I stayed up late to watch that gentleman on the show. I'm a Ugandan. My nephew is in that college, and we were struggling, dropped out of university 3 times. For the first time, he's focused. Whatever they are doing in that place is changing lives. I saw your post and I said I must see what the gentleman is going to say. I hope that many technical people and people in government in Uganda are actually listening or watching to this program. What a day and what a moment that have been. It gives me joy to see that all the money I spent in university for this boy didn't pay, but the little that is happening right now is changing his life more than we have been trying to turn his life around. That's coming from Edwin all the way in Germany. I want to read for you one more coming from Dennis all the way in Australia. He is always watching this program and he stays up late to wait for the sense. Niyitegeka, thank you very much for bringing Michael into the program. I really would want to say this has been a very amazing program for me. I think that Michael touched on the numbers. There's this fascination with people in Uganda that something has to be so big for people to go. I actually feel like Ugandans are confused. They tend to run for things that are making so much noise. Empty tins bring so much noise. But look at what Michael has said and look at what they are doing and see where the transformation is going. Why is it that people in Uganda are very obsessed with numbers? Can you ask Michael, why do we always look for big numbers? And we always think that numbers explain, but Michael is talking about impact. Impact will always cause numbers. Value, I am glad that Michael is talking about value. Thank you guys for the show. I will look forward to the second part of it when he just talks about how we can transform education system in Uganda.
That one. That one. It's something that I've been thinking about.
Yes.
I have a few articles that I've been thinking of writing because I think for me we've missed an opportunity to make our education system flip on the head.
Yes.
COVID presented us an opportunity.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we're going to go back and we haven't changed.
Yeah, that's the sad part of it.
So to the people that have nominated me and those compliments that have come through, I'll be honest with you, it's extremely humbling. Yeah. Edwin in Germany, the one who mentioned that he has
a boy in a refactory program.
We've had another one. I mean, and right now I also have another one. I mean, there are many cases for me. So
what been to universities where we're doing this?
Yeah, I think for me, and that's what I tell my colleagues. I'm like, this is not what I intended to achieve, but this is a bonus that people come in, and then we touch points or areas that nobody paid attention to.
Yeah.
One of my friends, former students, had a brother in our program.
Yeah.
Brilliant young man. Brilliant, like super brilliant. He joined Refactory, and the family came to us and said, "What are you doing, guys?" For the first time, this man is attending without coercion. Wow. For the first time, the level of focus is at a different level. Yeah. I'm like, okay. I was on a class, I facilitate some of the classes. Yeah. And this gentleman walks out to me and, reaches out to me online and says, "Michael, I want you to be my mentor." And the man opens up and tells me things. And he says, "You just don't know these 2 days what they have meant to me." And I'm like, what?
In just 2 days?
2 days. Yeah. He said, "Stay focused." But the fact that he's still in the program means a lot. So for me, that's the fuel that I need to keep moving. I've told people that even if the grant runs out and we don't have money, if we have enough money to pay facilitators, that program will continue running. And so my appeal to people out there is that to keep running these programs the way we are running. Many of the talent that we have don't have the resources to pay for the value of the program. I mean, we see quite amazing talent. If I was to build this program, the market value, a similar program in Kenya goes for $1,500. We're charging about $1 million.
For a term?
For the 3 months.
3 months, yes.
The 6
Which
months.
Is equivalent to a term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 6 months
or
we don't charge.
In university, yes.
6 months we don't charge.
Yeah.
We actually pay because they're now investing their time to do work.
Yeah.
For me to run this program requires resources because not many can afford $1,500.
That's true.
Equivalent.
Yeah.
Similar program in the UK goes for £5,000.
It's the most expensive program because it's the skilling.
It's a skilling program.
Yeah.
And to hire somebody from that program, you pay the institution because they have saved you a certain value. You get it?
Yes.
So, but because we are where we are,
yeah,
we keep knocking at different opportunities.
Yeah.
and trying to see, can we find more money? Can we find more money? And for me, that sometimes is a bit frustrating because you then don't focus on the things that are critical. You are all the time, will I be able to pay salaries next year? Will I keep the team? But I hope we overcome this. And so thank you very much for nominating me. Eddie, I am ready to come back and we talk education.
Yes.
Fully. I'm not an expert, but it's an area that is close to my heart.
That you need to come to, yes.
And apologies for breaking the time rules.
No. Michael, this is what the CEO bench exists for, this kind of moments. I mean, there is no platform that gives people opportunity to have 1 hour and have to talk about certain things that people are looking forward to. A message just came in on the messenger, and permit me to read it to you as we close the show. And to everyone, it's a very interesting message coming in, and he said, Ediokela, thank you very much. Finally, we begin to see some serious content taking shape in Uganda. How I wish our elders could be able to give that man a lot more time. I think that Michael should be given an opportunity to speak more on different platforms. And this is a testimony of a student.
Wow.
A year ago, my life was in a mess, and I went for this program. Please conceal my identity and tell Michael, if it was not because of Refactory, I would not be having a life that pays, a job that pays. I have 2 children and we're living a comfortable life. I was almost giving up in life because I had education but wasn't working until I was realigned to purpose, driven life, and now I am paid my worth. I think this is enough for So there you have it. I just got this. Just got about 200 messages coming on Messenger, and we can't read all your messages.
Thank you.
But thank you very much, Michael, for coming to the program today.
Pleasure.
And we're looking forward to having you come back to talk about education. It's been a center that people have been looking forward to. And to Professor Penny Nachayo, all the way in Washington University, shout out to you, Prof. You probably have another Ugandan here on the show called Michael, and you've been looking forward. He's finally here.
Thank you.
And I'd like to say thank you very much to Paulo, all the way in University of California. I said you want to see this gentleman on the show. He's here. We want to say thank you very much for nominating Michael. Yes, and running down to Anthony in the Denmark. You said that you want to see Michael come onto the program. I think that Michael has been able to deliver very well. Ladies and gentlemen, the show has come to an end. From us here, we want to say a toast, and as we always do, we have to spread love. So we're going to end the show, Michael, by spreading love. And the CEO bench exists to, like I said at the beginning, to bring in the intellectual part of it, rigor, or the heavy stuff that you've talked about, but breaking it down to a common person's understanding, so that those who are stuck in one place are able to find their way out, and those who are already on their way to the top knows that leadership is important for them to be able to reach there. And if you're on the top coming down, like what's next for a leader when you're coming down? Some people learn so hard, others walk back down majestically and move into retirement and they're looking at us, and others crash. So that's the program is here to allow us to express ourselves, and we want to say thank you very much. So we spread love here, given by Pastor Mugabe. You have to do this so that everyone receives yes. So we're going to do one more time. No, it's the other hand. Yes. Okay. So one more time and we spread love. From us here, we want to say thank you guys. Thank you. And till next time, Michael will be back and we'll be bringing you another guest. And of course, Michael will come back to discuss education as said. The CEO bench has come to an end. Ediokela, Michael Niyitegeka, of course, Refactory story right there. And of course, the ICDL Africa. We'll be right back.